Hey everyone, Tactics here, and today, fantastic news for everyone in the World of Warcraft community as we got the expansion announcement, Dragonflight. So the leaks recently have, a lot of them, been correct. So new expansion focused around Dragon. So in this video, I'll go over all the stuff that they've announced and confirmed, and also go through some of my wish lists for some smaller things I'd like to see in 10.0. So starting right off with it, new race, new class. So we've got the Drakthir and the Evoker. So this is kind of like a race and class that are tied together. So all Drakthir are going to be Evokers, all Evokers are going to be Drakthir. At least that's how I understood it. Basically, this class is going to have two specs. One ranged DPS spec here that uses fire and ice. So the red Dragonflight and the blue Dragonflight powers, rather. And that's Devastation. And there's going to be a healer spec called Preservation, which uses more of the green and the bronze Dragonflight type ability. So they're both going to use all 5 Dragonflights, but they're going to focus on 2 each. That black Dragonflight getting left out a little bit. Where's the tank spec? Come on, I wish. Oh well. No tank spec, so just 2 specs here. 1 range DPS, 1 healer. Really interesting. I'm excited. They did also talk about empowering abilities, which is going to be a new feature where it's kind of like you're holding down the ability to kind of charge it up, or you can toggle it as well. That is an option. If you don't want to hold it down, you'll be able to toggle as well. So interesting, first time that's being added into WoW. Excited to see how that plays out. And again, this is going to be a neutral race, of course. You can play Horde or Alliance, though again, cross faction is going to be in full swing by the time 10.0 comes out. That's coming in the next half patch in 9.2.5. So again, Drakthir Evokers. Really cool. I'm super excited to play this, even though they don't have a tank spec. And the big thing, actually, customization. I think it's here. The customization on these guys is super sick. Like, you can be any of the Dragonflight colors. Like, look at this. You have a dragon form and you have a human form. It's so cool. I think this is so cool. This is really exciting. Like, this is so sick. All the different dancing, flying, run animations, all this stuff there. Really cool. Hats off to the art team, of course. They always do fantastic stuff. I'm super excited, even though I probably won't play this spec very much. Being a tank main, it's just super cool looking, and it looks really great. On top of that, we are going to the Dragon Isles, of course. Dragons, Dragon Isles. You will be leveling up to 70. So there were some people in leaks saying there's no new levels. There are 10 new levels. You're leveling up to 70. Pretty cool landscapes here. Ducks. There's ducks. There's the big thing, actually, which I think goes hand in hand with how cool some of these landscapes are looking, rather, is dragon riding, actually. So I think you scroll down enough here. Yes, dragon riding. So every player is going to get their own fully customizable dragon mount that they're able to kind of enhance throughout the experience that you get right away. So you get this flying, but it's more like dragon riding, and it's really cool. There's some fantastic videos of it, but you get these cool flying mechanics. You can do like barrel rolls, dive bombs, insane like verticality. It just looks super sick, and you get your fully customizable mount that's a dragon. I think it's really cool. Again, just a bunch of cool looking stuff this expansion. Cool dragon stuff. I'm here for it. Let's do it. Here, customize new snout, horns, tails, armors, more. I'm ready to have my own fully customizable dragon. How to train your dragon, World of Warcraft edition. I know a lot of people were hoping for housing. This kind of seems like they're what they're doing. That gives people that customization, that cosmetic thing that they can go out and try and achieve. I hope so. Anyways, like unlocking new personal dragon customizations by doing certain achievements. I think that's a really cool idea, and I hope that that this is something that moves forward past this expansion, that people can continue to collect things for their own customizable mount, maybe not just a dragon moving forward. And the flying mechanics look really cool, reminiscent of Guild Wars 2 mount mechanics. So I'm really excited for that. Overall, obviously you guys can tell I'm super excited for this expansion. This announcement was super hype. I'm so ready for it. But something that I think was maybe the most exciting for me to see was the talent system revamp. So basically, here's a couple examples from Druid that they gave out. So they gave out a restoration Druid talent thing, and they gave out a balanced Druid talent thing. So how it looks like is that there are a class specific tree and a spec specific tree. So basically, if you look at these trees, a bunch of different symbols, some you recognize, some you won't. The squares are active abilities, the circles are passives, and these hexagons, or maybe they're octagons. I think they're these octagons are choices between abilities. There's also these 2 diamonds on the side, which I believe are just kind of baseline spells, maybe based on how many points you've spent in. So once you've spent 20 points, you get this from one. Once you've spent like 40, you get the next one, whatever it is. So these are just, every druid is going to get Rebirth and Stampeding Roar at some point. Every Resto druid is going to get Nature Swiftness and Tranquility at some point. But then you have these other different choices you can make along the way. Notice Convoke is making a comeback here. So for druids, Convoke is still alive and well in the next expansion. And I mean, that was kind of obvious, right? We saw in Legion, artifact traits getting carried forward. In BFA, we saw some of those, what's it called? The Azerite traits moving forward. So no surprise here. Some Covenant abilities are going to live into the next expansion. So you get these general class utility spells here. You see things like Cyclone. You see things like, looks like that's the Curse Dispel here. You have Typhoon, Mighty Bash, Ursouls. Actually, that looks like a passive, actually. You probably have a choice between Ursouls on one of these. It's a choice here between like Typhoon something, Mighty Bash something. Innervate is here. That's the interesting thing for me. So you can get Innervate. This actually looks like that symbol from, I can't remember, Nature's Fury or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was like where your damage would pulsate as healing, kind of like Vampiric Embrace. So that's interesting if that's making a return. But there's also some like pretty mandatory looking things depending on your spec at the top of the tree, right? Frenzied Regen, Iron Fur, right? Like imagine you could be a Guardian Druid and just not spec an Iron Fur. Obviously, you have to kind of, there does appear to be some mandatory talents depending on what your actual spec is. Like Resto Druids, you could never not take Rejuve and Swift Mend and Wild Growth, right? You would 100% always have to take those. But it is interesting that now, of course, as like a Feral Druid, you could get Innervate. As a Guardian Druid, you could get Innervate. That's really, really cool. I think it's good, right? I think that was one of my main complaints, is that like Boomkins, Resto Druid just have way more utility than something like Guardian and Feral, and now that's possible for them to achieve at least part of that anyway. So I think this is a really cool idea. It also kind of makes it so you're not competing between that like general class utility and your spec specific throughput, at least once you've got your baseline spec things from this tree, right? There's like 5, 6 talents here that you need to invest in depending on your spec, it looks like. And the rest are kind of free to kind of explore and try and get those deeper ones as you see fit. Whereas over here, they're all directly related to your spec, where you got Omen. The ability to not take your Magic Dispel if you don't need a Magic Dispel is pretty interesting, honestly. I just think there's going to be a lot of interesting choices here. I'm really excited to mess around with this. This seems really, really, really cool. I'm super excited for this. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. You're going to see a lot of creativity, especially in the first patch. Of course, when things aren't figured out, that first patch of Dragonflight is going to be so fun. When there's no like cookie cutter builds, that kind of thing, people are just experimenting with different types of utility builds and spec specific builds. I am really, really, really excited for how these are going to play out. Can't wait to get my hands on these. Hopefully, getting into that beta, I believe, to test this stuff out. And of course, I will be posting all that stuff on this channel as well, guys. So make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Shameless plug. But that's not the only revamp coming with the expansion. Actually, no, we have the HUD and UI revamp. So this is actually a massive change to the game. Straight up, this is probably one of the biggest changes, most beneficial changes even, since like Mythic Plus was added. The ability to like customize your UI and be able to like move it around. They don't show it here, but basically like fully movable, right? You can move all this stuff around, just kind of like LVY, for example, is what I currently use. And add-ons will still work if you want to use that. But this, being able to move this up, moving your health bars around, your target frame around, that's absolutely insane for the game. Something that's been lacking, really, right? That customization within the game. That old UI was very dated, right? They've been using it since vanilla. That this update is, long needed and honestly super great. So I'm really happy, and they've said it in the announcement too. Their focus this expansion is not going to be bringing in those board power systems that kind of go away at the end of the expansion, but they're kind of investing in systems that are going to be here for the foreseeable future, right? The talent system revamp, the UI revamp, and the profession revamp, which is also coming. That looks also really cool. There's like work orders. There's like collaborative crafting, I believe it's called, where you can like bring like bind on pickup materials to a crafter and have them make something for you, that kind of thing. So that's just 3 revamps of systems that have been in the game, have long needed a revamp, and are going to be in the game now for as long as they're not reworked again, right? So I'm really happy to see that. I hope this shift in mentality is going to be good for the game. I think it's going to be good for the game. It's looking really good so far, and I'm really excited for this expansion, guys. I mean, every expansion is hype, but this just seems like they're making a lot of good decisions, and they're saying all the right things, they're doing all the right things. I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to get down into the nitty-gritty of the exact changes they're doing to some of the other current systems, right? And maybe that's where I'm going to move and transition into what my wish list is for some of the smaller things. Right. So Mythic Plus. Mythic Plus is, I love Mythic Plus. It's one of the big things that I spend a lot of my time in the game doing. I would love to see a bit of an affix revamp and potentially the rotation in of old dungeons. We are seeing that in Season 4. I hope that goes well. I hope they continue doing that moving forward, just to get rid of maybe the monotony of playing the same dungeons all expansion. Maybe something like, you're doing all the new expansion dungeons in the first season. Maybe they rotate out some of the lesser liked dungeons and put in a couple old dungeons from previous expansions, get that flavor in. The next one, they rotate those old dungeons out, maybe add some new ones in. Maybe you have new dungeons like the Tazavesh for Shadowlands coming in. Maybe you can rotate back in those dungeons that you rotated out for the previous season and take out 2 other dungeons that people didn't really like in this season, with some iterations done to maybe make those dungeons more well liked. I think Tyrannical and Fortified, again, I've been on this train for a long time. I think they got to go, right? I mean, we're seeing the scaling at the end of the expansion here. We're having like 6 to 7 minute boss fights on Tyrannical post the nerfs that happened in 9.1 to Tyrannical, right? That affix got a bunch of the health taken away from it, I believe, and it's still pretty out of control with the health scaling in this final patch. So I'm hoping maybe we just kind of remove those and do universal scaling, right? I think that wouldn't be bad. I also wouldn't be unhappy to see a bigger affix revamp as well, on top of all these other revamps we're seeing in this expansion. Maybe something like, maybe not all the affixes have to be negative, right? I think Blizzard has been learning with the seasonal affixes that's something that just kind of prevents people from doing certain things isn't fun, right? You need that kiss curse on that affix, and they've done really well with the seasonal affixes in Shadowlands. I think all of them have been pretty good affixes. None of them have been a standout bad affix like we saw in BFA. I think there were a couple that were just universally disliked, and I don't think we saw any universally disliked affixes in Shadowlands. And I'm hoping maybe that means that we can see positive affixes every week instead of just 2 negative affixes. Like, what if every week there was 1 positive affix and 1 negative affix? That would be really interesting, and it would let them kind of cut back on all the negative affixes that no one likes, right? There are negative affixes that just kind of, I don't think they really belong. They're not fun, right? Anti-fun mechanics, that's the kind of thing you want to eliminate from the game, I think. Like bolstering, for example. I just don't see any world where bolstering is fun. It's just not to me. Even post nerf, like, you can deal with it, yeah, but it's not fun to deal with it, right? That's the kind of affix I think should be removed from the game, right? You see participation during bolstering weeks go way down for Mythic Plus runs, right? Like, you don't want people to play your game less. Yeah, I can see, like, week to week you want changes, and only having 1 negative affix on a key kind of gives you that room to still have those different negative affixes, but you can eliminate the ones that just aren't working, right? I think that's a good idea. Would love to see that. Or just maybe you stick with the 2 negative affixes and you just do a big overhaul of those. I'd be fine either way, but I do think it's interesting. Someone did throw around the 1 positive, 1 negative affix every week, and I think that would be really, really cool. Would also love to see just more cosmetic rewards in general. Right, currently we have that KSM mount. You've got the title, and then right there's that giant gap just between that. Right, the title's for the 0.1%. The mount is for KSM. It just feels like there's a reward in there missing for all those players that are kind of between that skill level. Would love to see something for them to kind of aim for and achieve, because right now there just doesn't seem to be anything. And cosmetics, everyone loves cosmetics. In terms of loot and stuff, I would love to see the Great Vault return. My one thing, I would like to see kind of like a targeting change. Maybe on like one of the slots per week, you can choose to select as like a specific targeting of a boss or a dungeon, for example, right? Like say, this week I want to choose my raid vault slot to target, and this one raid vault slot, not all three, just one of them. I want to make sure that this drops loot from the jailer or whatever, assuming you've killed the jailer on said difficulty, right? And the next week that vault slot is guaranteed to have a piece of loot from the jailer. Similarly, dungeon, like I want this piece of dungeon loot to be from Tazavesh Streets, right? You could choose one, right? You couldn't do both of that in a week, but being able to like choose one, just target, add a little bit of targeting into the Great Vault, I think that would be really, really beneficial. I think that would make people much happier, especially with the massive loot tables. Just being able to have a little bit more control and maybe give yourself a little bit more luck. Maybe that's the wrong word. But just something like that, I think would be really, really nice. A little bit of targeting never hurt anybody. And I think that would be a massive quality of life increase to the system. Not really sure how you would do that for PvP, but I'm sure there are people smarter than me that can figure that out. Other loot stuff, tier. Tier is actually making a return. That's actually been confirmed. I have this here. So we got some of the pictures of the tier here, or from the Primalist raid tier sets. So this is from the new raid. Presumably in 10.0, so there are going to be tier sets here. We have all these concept arts from, again, official Warcraft Twitter here. Pretty interesting. Looking like they're associated with like a Dragonflight, maybe. Pretty cool looking. I'm a fan, so they are returning. Everybody seems to have liked the tier currently. The one complaint I've seen potentially is just the creation catalyst maybe coming a little bit too late. But overall, tier seems to be pretty positively received. And I mean, tier is cool, right? Tier is just cool. And I'm happy to see that it is returning for the first patch, even in Dragonflight. Because I know in previous expansions, when tier did exist, the first raid didn't have tier. So happy to see it's back in the first raid, even get a little switch up right away. That's pretty cool. Maybe legendaries. Let's talk legendaries for a second. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of like the Legion and Shadowlands style of class legendaries. I mean, it's cool to have the powers and whatnot. I don't know. Maybe I'm caught up on the whole. Maybe this is too much of a boomer take. I do like the old legendary system where you like crafted like a legendary weapon for someone in your raid. I understand how it could have been annoying. Maybe it's something stuck in the past in the game. I would like to see legendaries return though. I think that's really, really cool, even if I'm not the one getting them. Maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe that's my trash boomer take for this video. I kind of want to see the old style of legendaries come out. You know, your Shadowmourns, your Fangs of the Father, your what's the Terragosa staff. Those kind of legendaries I thought were really, really cool. Would love to see those kind of return. Legendary weapons are always cool as well. So the Hunter Bow was all right. It was just a rare drop off Sylvanas, and also, I mean, it's kind of funny that it was like weaker by comparison to some of the epic weapons, right? Like the epic Rogue Dagger, the epic Gavel, even some of the trinkets like Old Warrior Soul, whatever, were just relative to their counterparts way stronger than the legendary bow was to its counterparts. So it is what it is, but I think it would be really cool to see those old style legendaries return. Wouldn't be sad to see the Legion / Shadowlands style legendary not be a thing this expansion. Maybe we get like a general legendary like we saw in Mists of Pandaria and Warlords with the cape and the ring. I'd be cool with that too, but yeah, having to juggle all the slots of the legendaries, having it controlled by players, the prices and stuff like that, really not a fan. Really not a fan of that. So hopefully that does not return. At least that's my opinion. Man, these t-shirts do look really cool. That is something I do want to see as well, actually, cosmetic stuff. So I would actually love to see maybe cosmetic like class ability overhauls. People were talking about it a little bit, but like a Dark Ranger, which is not really a new class, but it's just kind of like a spec skin on like marksmanship or whatever, right? Where your abilities kind of change. That would be really cool. It would probably be announced as an expansion feature, so I don't expect to see that. I think that would be cool. Just more cosmetic stuff like that, right? Something to change up how you look that doesn't necessarily change up the gameplay. Green Fire was like the original. I think that was like the original example of that. More of that would be really cool, I think. But yeah, that's all my smaller changes I think that I want to see going in the expansion. We'd love to know what you guys want to see going in this expansion. How do you feel about Dragonflight? Are you super hyped like me? Are you a bit skeptical? Let me know down in the comments below. Would love to hear what all you guys think. Also, again, be sure you keep an eye on this channel, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, because I'll be posting all the updates through now, the alpha, the beta, everything on this channel. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for all of that stuff. Also be streaming, of course, over on my Twitch channel at Tactics. And I haven't forgotten about Shadowlands. Season 4 is on the PTR. I am going to be covering a lot of Season 4 stuff as well, because that's looking pretty interesting to me as well. And of course, that's what we're going to be doing while we're all waiting for dragons. Anyways, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.